everyone, and happy Friday here at TableTakes with Gen Con at Chaldea Studios. Guess what? We're just going to go ahead and jump right into the news because it's exciting news. And
You can tell who that is?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. I totally forgot. My bad. So, as you can see, we have a new person here. Oh, Javion. He's come to join us. As you can, you've already seen Javion on their shows before with TableTakes or Rundown. New release Rundown, right?
And he's also helped on Fireside.
On Fireside, and also the Alien RPG.
Yeah, it was
where
scary.
he made good decisions as captain. Captain, my captain.
Is that how we're gonna rewrite history? That he made good decisions?
He made good decisions.
I made
He's
awesome
my captain.
decisions. I kicked a dude into an alien and lit him on fire. I think that's a pretty good decision.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel that other people involved may want to have clarified or characterized that as you lit your crew member on fire and kicked them into an alien.
Clearly, he was an android.
Well,
so.
But he killed
Was
Cham.
he though?
He
Yeah,
killed
absolutely,
Cham.
totally.
Did he though?
He killed
Yeah, of
Cham.
course.
How did he kill Cham?
He let it happen.
So did you.
We're just
I did, and I was crying. I couldn't.
speculation.
I
This is
couldn't.
all speculation.
Anyways.
If you want to know what the hell we're talking about, you should watch the Game Night episodes for the past couple of weeks.
Yes.
We will have another episode tonight.
Yes.
Where we see who will ultimately survive this.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, also, Derek's here too.
Hey.
Hi, Derek.
Thanks for being here, Derek.
Thanks for being here, Derek.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, yes, all right. We're moving on. So, yes, I'm sorry, I jumped because I'm actually really excited about what is coming up next. Is basically Amazon is producing a show from Tales from the Loop. If you guys don't know about that, it's a beautiful art scene where, like, you know how, like, a while ago we had people, like, come over, like, everybody was freaking out about that, you know, that big tunnel in the ground that's supposed
The
to...
Large Hadron Collider.
Yes, that. But, and so this is like an alternate universe where, like, it's a very high sci-fi, but kind of like the good sci-fi where it's not just like gloom and doom for the
Sure,
most part. Yeah.
sure,
Optimistic.
Yeah? Optimistic.
Like
future.
heartwarming, wholesome,
Yes.
pastoral.
Yeah.
Yes. Heartwarming, pastoral.
Could fit in a Norman Rockwell painting.
Yes,
Sure.
it actually could.
Not as scary.
Not as scary, but still. But yeah, so the show itself explores the town and people who live in the loop. And it's a machine, like they want to go ahead and build this machine to unlock and explore the mysteries of the universe.
It's one of those big, vague science things.
Science.
It's a cool science place, and it makes cool science things, and nothing will go wrong.
It makes for great shots. Like, I saw the trailer, and it was, I mean, just like things floating and big monster robots, just like you can actually control. Huge set pieces. to,
Well, like speaking
gaze at.
of robots, it was based on this art book.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's just like, this sums up a whole lot of it is, 1980s-esque kids with kind of Atari level technology directing giant robot things through the fields.
And
Yeah.
apparently attacking the police.
No,
so-
maybe he's just going to say hi.
Okay, sure.
Hi to the police. Yes.
Yeah, that could be a thing. There's a lot of people. There's an awful lot of people inside that van too. So
Yeah, and
I don't know.
there's a lot of people to say hi to.
Sure.
Yes.
So, like, this was the original art book, and there's the kind of general mood, I would say, is a little bit like taking the kind of fantastic and making it relatively mundane and somewhat melancholy. And I think the trailer captured that really, really well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like, there was the art book, and then there was the RPG that came out where you could play the kids. And this actually uses the same system for the Alien RPG that we're playing. Actually.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if we actually talked about that.
Cool. So it's got
So-
like stress dice and stuff like that.
No, so the stress dice are alien specific.
Yeah.
But the basic mechanic of rolling the dice and looking for 6. And then, so Tales from the
Looking
Loop
for
is the
sixes.
RPG where you play the kids and you kind of like go through adventures trying to sort out the weird stuff that happens because of the effect of that loop. So this is very, like, people kept calling this like Stranger Things, the RPG, basically, without the IP. And it's not far off because you're playing kids, they can't die,
Yeah.
they go on adventures, there's
Yeah.
weird science stuff filtering around. So we had the art book, we have the RPG, now we have the TV show. I think it'll be cool to see if that drives even more excitement for the RPG.
Yes.
I think that apparently the artist for the art book, I think, redid some of the images in the art book to match what they were doing in the show. So he is very closely involved in the production of the show. Seems very excited about it, so that's a good sign.
But yeah.
And then I'm curious where they're going to go with Things from the Flood.
That's the one you said that was your favorite, right?
Mm-hmm. This is the one that I like because it gets into the weirdness of technology and flesh mixing together.
That's good. That's a nice photo.
Why?
Yeah, right? So I think this probably explains why I like Chaos so much in Warhammer, because it's all about this, but just less fun. So this is like the darker. So like, if this is the '80s kids, this is like the '90s teenagers who are getting put on a little edgy and dark. So it's more my thing. I think there might even be like someone wearing a Nine Inch Nails T-shirt in one of those shots.
I'm getting lots of like undertones of it.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
was,
good.
That's a good, yeah.
But then it's also interesting because the artist did another art book, which is the Electric State. And this is kind of, again, it takes the same elements of technology, kind of put in a bit of a nostalgic past where it wasn't originally there. And this is, because he's in Sweden, I believe, and all these were originally kind of set there.
In Sweden, yeah.
This one is interesting because it's actually set in the U.S., and it's kind of an art book road trip from, I think, Vegas through California.
Yeah.
So there's it's kind of an interesting alternate view of like the U.S. and stuff like that. So if you saw the trailer,
or you should just check out the trailer because
seriously,
very beautiful cinematography. And it gets me excited to go ahead and see. And this show show will premiere at SXSF on March 16th, and then the release for the Amazon Prime show is on April 3rd.
Oh,
sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to see a whole bunch of people kind of discover this universe and come join us.
Yes, join us, and maybe we could even do a game.
Oh, maybe.
And I would be up for it.
Yeah, I'd be down for that.
Oh, yeah,
Sounds awesome.
just a good segue to the game nights.
Speaking of segues, I have just been informed that our marketing department would like us to remind people that not only can you get TableTakes on Twitch and on YouTube now, but they have started to take a lot of the headlines from TableTakes and New Release Rundown, and they have kind of put them in like a blog post, so that if you just want to kind of get a hit of the headlines, you can also sign up for a newsletter. I believe that gets it sent to you. I think on Mondays.
Okay.
Might be coming out on Saturdays, but basically it's a blog post that'll have a link to our video, but it also has the major headlines. So if you miss any of the links during the video, you can always go there later
To the blog.
Yep, and that's linked off of the Gen Con website.
Ooh.
All the fun of TableTakes, but without having to look at anybody.
Or you can read up on the topics and then watch the video and decide how you want to argue with us because we didn't mention your favorite part.
Yes,
okay.
that's a good one.
But those are both entirely reasonable options to take.
But
cool.
yes. Oh, for more news to get excited about, we have Javion here. You're going to tell us about the...
Yes, we got some D&D stuff now. We've got some more Unearthed Arcana additions, 3 subclasses for 3 different classes. The Artificer, the Ranger, and the Druid are all getting new subclasses. So my favorite right now is the Artificer Armorer, which is getting a power suit. You can get a regenerating shield, so it's like some temporary hit points.
Yes.
But I think the coolest part are the Thunder Gauntlets, because you can like use these like gloves that you've got. Not only as like protection, but you can literally like shoot thunder at people. So it's like sort of like a mix of like Iron Man and Thor.
Could you, if you were Tabaxi, say thunder?
Oh my God!
Thunder.
Oh no!
Thundercats!
Oh! Could you do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Okay.
This is D&D.
I think
What would it be without
I'm in
references?
for it now. Now, see, this is how you get me in.
There you go. Cool. I should have
Wait,
known
wouldn't you
cats
have to like...
were the way to lure
Thundercats,
Derek in.
oh.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
What would be your hand signal to do it? Yeah, it's basically Iron Man, as chat would say.
Yeah.
But it's fantasy Iron Man because
Right.
the shield regenerates every turn. So.
Yeah. So you can sort of turn this artificer who's typically all about creating these magical items or using them in efficient ways as like this person who like decks themselves out with this suit. Who, well, kind of like Iron Man, you power yourself up and you can like make upgrades and stuff like along the way. You get to instead of getting a pet for yourself, like some of the artificers, like subclasses you get just a more powerful suit. So you're more like a juggernaut in that kind of way. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So the druid subclass that people are getting is the Circle of the Stars. Basically an astrologer, somebody who like studies the stars for a really long time and communes with nature, but is more of like a stargazer.
Feels very Stonehenge-y to me.
Yeah. It's a little bit more mystical, but more celestial. You know, so it's getting you one step closer to becoming like a heavenly body, right?
Apparently,
so
you can use your wild shape to transform into like a starry form.
Yeah, exactly. So you get like more perks and stuff related to a different side of nature. So you're not just like a forest nymph or anything like that.
See, now I want to have a party that has one of those, like a Circle of the Stars druid, and then one of the like elder god warlocks, so they can argue about what the stars should be like.
The stars should fall like
because you could probably have a pretty cool campaign of like those two sides of heaven fighting each other.
That would be a very interesting like thing. And also, I honestly thought for a second it would be a magical girl when I heard starry form. I was like, oh, you can be a magical girl. Magical.
So Bonsai, I'm just gonna say that if we can make the Artificer into the Thundercats, I'm pretty sure that you can make Circle of the Stars into Sailor Moon.
Okay.
No one is going to tell you no. That if you want to say by the power of the moon, I will punish you before you leap into battle.
I want like a big group of pop culture references just like charging into battle and like this big, what is it, mashup episode where we get different characters from different like TV shows to like power up. That'd be cool.
Yes.
So the last subclass that we have is Ranger Fey Wanderer. So the Fey Wanderer comes from this order who basically protect the border between the Feywild and the material plane. So, like, the Feywild is more like, like unicorns and fairies and stuff like that.
And trolls and stuff like that, too.
Yeah, exactly. And trolls and, like, all kinds of, like...
Just in case anybody's worried that you have to go butcher unicorns nonstop.
Yeah, I know. No, it's all, like, mythical fairy tale kind of, stuff in the Feywild. So you get what is essentially a more Fey-aligned ranger. Who gets in tune with more of their sort of like Fey ancestry, kind of like the warlocks do, which is pretty cool. And you can take them out of that area and plop them into pretty much any setting that you have. So
Fourth edition did some really interesting stuff with the Feywild. So it's nice to see some of that still being brought forth into fifth. I wouldn't be averse to having an adventure that kind of explores that a little bit more in depth and whatnot.
Sure.
Maybe we'll see something like that in the future.
Yeah, and there's lots of perks too for like, and it doesn't have to just be like elves being rangers. So you can. This is a subclass, so you can choose pretty much anybody to do it.
So it's
just
elves,
a little bit more
also other races that want to pretend that they're elves.
Basically. But you get like protection from mind-altering magic and some other like Fey-related abilities.
So like charm
with nature and magic. So some people want to lean a little bit more on like the versatility of rangers using lots of different weapons and proficiencies and stuff like that. But this one seems to be leaning more towards like the magic side, which is pretty cool, I think.
It just gave me the protection versus mind magic just gives me the image of playing a dwarf who is a Fey ranger.
Right.
Not to protect the Feywild, but to make sure the Feywild doesn't invade the real world.
Exactly. Yeah.
Could be neat.
It's an incentive for like classes other than elves to sort of take on this subclass because elves typically get resistances to mind altering or like sleep and stuff and charm. So like other classes can like tack on that bonus too.
Sure.
Yes.
But you have some thoughts about this.
I do have some thoughts about this. Since they're building up like so much of the Eberron and the Artificers, I'm just going to say it looks like more signs of a player handbook 2.
Oh,
it's
really?
going to come about. You're going to need more because now if you want to go ahead and have this super cool Artificer, you not only have to get the regular player's handbook, you also have to get the Eberron book. And oh my goodness, it's not +1, now it's +2.
Or what they'll do is they'll just publish a book that also includes the rules for Artificers, because they've done that before. If you remember to maintain their Player's Handbook +1, they have repeated rules content across multiple books.
Yeah. So if you want to get like classes from like different supplements from other Arcana, you can buy the modules.
I understand your desire for Player's Handbook 2. I have a feeling they're going to avoid releasing anything that could be called a Player's Handbook 2. They'll just give it a different name.
Yeah, but
Like Xanathar's.
Yeah,
or
Xanathar's
yeah,
guide.
exactly. But that's not a player's handbook 2. Get what I mean?
But it is.
But it's not.
Just because you don't say it is doesn't mean.
Marketing.
Oh, speaking of marketing, though, you have some new Warhammer stuff going on, right?
Yep. So
Ooh.
at Toy Fair, there was a bunch of new Warhammer stuff announced.
Yes.
There's a new warband for Warhammer Underworlds. Beastgrave is the current season, I think. If anybody's not familiar, Underworlds is like kind of a hex-based, card-powered,
Right.
tactical, skirmishy game of Warhammer, Age of Sigmar, basically. So there's I got excited about it, and I'm interested now because a Nurgle band came out just recently. So obviously,
Cool.
finally, there's a place for me here.
Yeah.
There was like a weird corrupted witch lady, but they just announced a new cool orc warband, like
Yeah.
a super heavily armored orcs.
Orcs are the best.
These
love
particular orcs look pretty neat.
Okay, cool.
There's also an expansion for Imperialis Aeronautica, which is like the World War II style future
Yeah.
dogfight game.
Yeah.
So there's these new
Planes.
Avenger strike fighters that have come out that you can use.
Yeah.
There's an action figure coming from McFarlane Toys, so you can get. Well, first, right now they've only shown like the Primaris Marine.
Yes.
But I guess they're selling the painted and the unpainted version, which is really interesting.
That is interesting.
Because the idea of painting your own action figure sounds pretty cool. I have a feeling a lot of people are going to get at least one and paint it like their army is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then march it on the field like it's a giant robot.
I just want to do this, man.
Yeah. So that's interesting because I hope that continues to expand because McFarlane Toys always kind of had those lines of toys that were cool that I wanted an excuse to buy.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they do with that.
Okay.
But the bigger news is that Games Workshop has announced another kind of batch of 3 board game kind of spin-offs
Yeah.
that are exclusive to the Games Workshop stores. So, and part of the reason that I like these, and you ooh and ah, is that these are really neat slices of the Warhammer universe.
Yeah.
So you get like a handful of miniatures to paint. So you get to
Sweet.
kind of like mess with stuff or like dabble in a faction you wouldn't normally do, but without having to worry about like getting a full army, quote unquote, without feeling like you're painting something you're not going to use. So the 3 games they announced are ready for this?
Okay.
Rise of the Orcs.
Yes.
Except the orcs are the bad guys.
Oh, wait. But we
Okay.
can?
So I can be the bad guys,
So
right?
yeah, well, so I think it's a little unclear as to whether or not it's one versus many.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think that it's set up as a co-op game where you play a group of Terminators who are basically playing base defense against constant waves of orcs.
Okay.
Okay. I don't think somebody plays the orcs. They might have rules for it.
That's fine.
And I think also it doesn't come with orc minis, but obviously there are plenty of orc mini out there you can add.
So you're gonna be fighting orcs. That won't be like.
They won't be anywhere. They won't. No, you have little tokens. They won't be anywhere near as cool
Okay.
as the Terminators.
Okay.
is
Tokens.
what I'm
That's
saying.
okay. That's fine.
Yeah, it's definitely not just
something.
imagine something on the board.
Okay.
So that's Rise of the Orcs.
Yes.
There's also Blood Bowl Season 2, and that is kind of it seems like a simplified, maybe package version of Blood Bowl.
Yeah.
And if anybody's not familiar with that, it is take all the ridiculous fantasy tropes and then make dumb, murderous
Sports.
football teams out of them.
Sports.
And then
So
make
this
the
is
rules.
Blitz Bowl.
No, this is Blood Bowl.
Okay, okay.
Blitz Bowl is similar. There's a long history
Okay.
of this weird game.
Sure.
Yeah. So this is a kind of it's Blood Bowl Season 2. So I think they're trying to kind of simplify it and put it down a little bit. It's played on a grid, I believe, instead of just measurements now.
Okay.
So I think it's board gaming the kind of old miniatures game a little bit, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Trying to make it a little more accessible, it seems.
Okay.
Good. That's definitely what I need.
And then finally, there's Crypt Hunters, which is an asymmetric game where one player is going to play these Stormcast Eternals, which are like these fantasy knights kind of driven by God to like purge evil and stuff like that. Going into this crypt that you're going to build with these hex tiles, which they've used for a couple of their board games now. And you're fighting against somebody else who is playing the Night Haunts, which are like the spirits of the dead come back for vengeance. So I suspect it's a couple Stormcasts, probably versus a bunch of Night Haunts kind of thing.
Okay.
And the Stormcasts are trying to explore this crypt and clear it out, while the Night Haunts are obviously trying to murder the crap out of them.
That's awesome.
But it looks like it's you build the crypt and it's asymmetric. So again, if you kind of want to dabble with some of these, but don't want to commit to a big old army on a big old table for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Seems like a way to mess around with it.
Ominous.
So these were all just announced at Toy Fair, and those 3 games are exclusive to the physical stores, the Games Workshop stores.
For the Game Workshop.
Right.
I really do like these like board game like small mini packs because I know it can be kind of intimidating to get into Warhammer because you're like, oh, maybe I should try it. Then you have to buy this whole set.
Yeah, no.
Versus this, like especially like you work in like the retail
Mox, yeah.
business at Mox, and so do you think like this plan of action of like getting small sets that are still compatible with the battlefield is a good idea?
Yeah, because people are always looking for something where they can just buy a box of something, take it home and open it up and play with it. A lot of Warhammer stuff, you have to get a box. Your friend has to get a box. Maybe you want to get some other stuff to go along with it. The dice or supplementary cards or something like that. But yeah, this kind of thing usually works pretty well. And I'm always an advocate for board games because I'm obsessed.
I think it's a great entry point.
Yes.
And again, like I think it's also a great way to play with stuff outside your comfort area.
Yeah.
Like if I'm playing Death Guard usually. None of the Death Guard's not in any of these, but these would be neat to buy because then I can try a different mini without feeling like I have to commit or I wasted my time.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It's nice. Very nice.
So now we're going
Yes.
to talk about some more cats.
Meow? Now?
This time in the context of D&D.
Ooh.
So for anybody who's seen any of the Dungeons and Doggies or like Pugmire or like dog-related Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition stuff, we're gonna get some cat-related stuff as well. I think there was already a Kickstarter for Cats and Catacombs, and now we're actually getting like the minis in the retail sector. So now it's actually gonna come out, and people are actually gonna be able to see this in their LGS or FLGSs, like Mox or whatever.
Mox.
And you can actually like pick up the miniatures. So for anybody who doesn't know what Cats and Catacombs has, it's a lot of cat people. So this isn't like cat races. This isn't like Tabaxi. It's not like dwarves or like elves or anything like that. You're gonna get like the race of tabby cats.
Like actual
or,
cats.
Yeah, like sphinxes, or like Bengals or anything like or your normal like cat race or species, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So there's a lot of references to a lot of different types of armor and stuff like that, or like weapons and items that you can get that are more cat related, because not only are the miniatures coming out, there's also rules for playing Cats and Catacombs in the 5e setting. So it's going to be like sort of an adaptation of Cats and D&D. So you can play like this 4-legged creature, like running around, with like your paws and everything like that. But as the class that you want to play. So you can get like, they give you a bunch of examples here, like a Persian warlock, or like a Norwegian forest druid, or a Korat paladin. So basically, you're adapting a bunch of, Dungeons and Dragons classes in with the cat, races and things like that.
So I might not even have to do a Tabaxi to make the Thundercat?
Exactly.
No, well,
you
but
just
but
combine the two.
You won't be a person cat.
I know.
You'd be a cat
Yeah.
on all fours.
Yeah.
Not with the ones that go make bad movies and stuff.
Exactly.
Wow.
That
Sorry.
movie. Yeah. So you could definitely feasibly add this into the artificer armor that we were talking about earlier. Once that becomes like fully released.
Yes.
So there's a lot of different things you can do with it. There's a lot of different areas, but this isn't like a sort of like brand new thing. It's already been a Kickstarter, but now they're coming out with like some extra rules for stuff. And then
Well, it's
miniatures
also
are
coming
actually
out to, I think, general retail.
General
Yeah,
retail.
exactly, exactly.
So, like, that's the wish of all Kickstarters, that you just, boom, you're in retail now.
Exactly.
It's not just like, hey, only limited supply, buy it on Kickstarter. Now it's just like, boom.
I'm always surprised when I find a Kickstarter or a creator who's like, yeah, no, I just want to make my project in Kickstarter. I have no interest in going through the headache to get it in retail. I'm always surprised. But, like, yeah, most of them is like, the end goal is you want to get your game to as wide an audience as possible.
Yeah.
So the Kickstarter kickstarts the whole thing, and then you figure out where to go from there.
Yes.
Exactly.
All the things. But on exciting news, I'm sorry, as you can tell, Emma's not here. She's at East. But don't worry, I can go ahead and infuse Emma. So guys, are you ready? So there's new things in Magic going on right now. You know how last year they did the pony cards? Now they're doing the Magic the Gathering Secret layer release for International Women's Day. So what this is so Wizards of the Coast, to celebrate International Women's Day, this charity, it's going to be about going to the girls guides and Girl Scouts. This is what it's going to be benefiting. It's going to have 5 legendary creature cards of featuring known women in Magic. So I'm very excited. We're going to get
prominent female characters.
prominent female characters,
Cool,
and they're
cool.
foiled and
Good.
borderless. So it's just beautiful cards. You should just check it out
So what you're saying is international. So there's
International.
no borders.
because it's borderless. Get it? Yeah. High five.
Good job.
Good job.
Well done.
But
Emma,
yeah.
this is what happens when you're not here. At the show.
No, I'm here. This is me. I'm Emma. So if you guys were interested, it's gonna be. I'm gonna butcher the names because I am not Emma, and I am not very good at reading mythical names.
They're fantasy names.
They're
So
fantasy names. So
we forgive you.
Captain Sisay,
Sisay.
Sisay, or Minir of Clan Neltoth, Narset, the Enlightened Master, and Ona or Una. Una, Queen
I
of
definitely
Fae.
vote Una.
It's Una, not Ona. Queen of Fae, and
Saskia.
the Unyielding are the 5 cards that are going to be here. So the pack itself is $49.99, so $49.99, and $25 of each of the sales will be going to the Girl Scout and Girl Guide charity foundation, and these are set to release March 8th. And so you got 24 hours to get it. So if you guys want to go ahead, love the ladies of Magic and look at pretty cards. It's International Women's Day. They love the ladies.
Yeah.
Love the ladies.
Yep.
No?
No, that's fine.
All right, but yes, go ahead. You got 24 hours to go ahead and buy it in March 8th. And that's what I have.
Yeah, I have to say I really like what Wizards has done with these secret layers.
Yes.
Because I think it's a really neat excuse to do this like very cool, kind of hyper specialized, like funky thing, have it benefit a good cause, but they don't have to worry about like larger distribution issue. Like it's a neat chance for them to do something weird and fun.
And also to highlight the artists as well.
Yeah.
And everybody likes shinies.
Yeah.
So
Everybody likes women.
everybody likes women and shinies. So
We wish. We wish.
I was just being
but
optimistic.
yes, friends, that was our headlines of the day. But don't worry, we still got bundles and other stuff to go around. So Bundle Boss has now passed on to me today. So now it's Bonsai Bundle Boss today. Only temporary. I'm only temporary Bundle Boss, second in command. But today's bundle of holding is Hero Kids. If you guys were interested, it's a kind of like, imagine that all the adults are big superheroes fighting the big orcs and stuff. And you're the kids in this town. And you know what? Who's going to take care of the cats that run away?
Wait, what?
This is what this is about. You play the kids in
Well,
these
based on
towns.
the rules
Okay.
we had in our headlines previously, the cats are taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
No, but the cats need to be saved. Also,
Okay.
because the kids say the cats need to be saved.
Sure.
So this is a
Everybody needs a friend.
Now I'm just imagining that like the adult adventurers are talking to the adventuring cats, and they're like, okay, so the kids need to learn personal responsibility, so we're all gonna let them save you.
Oh,
and the cats are
man.
like, fine.
fine. I guess I'll let them. But yeah, Hero Kids is just if you are a parent or somebody who's older who wants to get like either your niece, nephew, daughter, son into gaming, this is a good intro into RPGs. This just uses it's for ages 4 to 10. Rules light. About this what is it called? It only uses D6, so that's why it's catered for the younger ages. There's not really that much math involved to it to not frustrate kids. But for the first layer is about $5.95. You get the Hero Kids rulebook, hero cards, pet cards, a quick adventure of entering the basement where you're
It's called Basement O Rats.
a basement of rats, so you can understand the encounter that you will face as these hero kids.
That's cool.
And then the upgraded package is $19.82. It includes the Monsters Compendium, 5 space expansions for, planet hoppers, more hero cards, more pet cards. And then all of this benefits support the Reading Foundation. So
Reading is fundamental.
Yeah, reading is fundamental. So basically, hey, it provides for a foundation that's helping children from around the world get literacy. And so,
cool. That's awesome. Yeah,
good stuff.
I bet Hawk would have loved to be here for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think we've talked about No Thank You Evil a bunch,
Yes.
and this seems to be just
Yeah.
kind of another game that's trying to accomplish the same kind of stuff. So if you haven't picked up No Thank You Evil, or you're interested in another game that you can play with kids,
Yes.
and you want to help support a charity, you should grab this.
Yes.
Definitely.
So
It looks really cute.
it is. But yes, hero kids.
I always felt like I missed out. RPGs when I was a kid, and then people would always talk about how they used to play Dungeons and Dragons in their basements with their friends and stuff like that. But I mean, if my dad had come to me and was like, "Hey, sit down. You're 6 years old. You can read now. Let's play an RPG about saving pets, even though I won't let you have one." I definitely would have been like, "Fine, all right, cool. It's a cool substitute."
I said salt in that statement. Just a little.
I think there were multiple layers of salt. Yeah, the funny thing for me is that I actually came at it from the other direction. In that, so we didn't play D&D. It was you ready for this?
What?
Riffs and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were what really got me into RPGs.
Okay.
And then I made my mother play it with me. And then I made my own game, and I made her sit down and play and run the
that's
whole
great.
thing.
Oh.
She did not enjoy any moment of it. I think her most common phrase was, "Okay, the monsters are dead. Are we done now?" And I was like,
That's really
"Cool, we're done. It's
Well,
cool."
at least she sat down
That
and
could be a
played
fun
with you.
cool
you know?
trope
Yep.
to play.
Are we done now?
I get that kind of player in my campaigns all the time.
Yeah, my mother was definitely like, "Okay, when are you gonna get done with this children's stuff?" And then I got my first check from anything relating to gaming. She's like, "Cool, great job, love it. It's good now."
I support you.
And I was like,
glad you
"Okay,
got
all
something
right,
out of it."
that was the criteria. Okay."
Here's money units. But yes, that is our bundle of holding, and now it's time for Kickstarter quiz.
That's right. I don't think Javion was
Yeah, I don't know
prepared
what
for
this
these.
is.
No,
Javion
sorry.
was
What does
not
that
prepared
mean?
for the musical
The
interludes.
musical. So yes, I just thought it would be fun.
Kickstarter queen.
It's a beautiful
Kickstarter
gift
queen.
that she shares with us each week.
Yes, I sing a little ditty.
Thank you, Bonsai.
Would you like to sing a little ditty for the Kickstarter queen?
In other news,
Thank you.
just saving Javion there. In other news, we're going to start with our Kickstarters.
Yeah.
Our first Kickstarter is Vampire the Masquerade Chapters.
Yes.
And my Vampire the Masquerade love is well documented here.
Yes.
Oh.
And this Kickstarter can probably flippantly be described as Gloomhaven but vampire, because it seems like it's going to be very much the same kind of thing.
Cool.
You have, your character, you go around Montreal, you go on these adventures, you can handle encounters, combat or social or political, you make a bunch of story choices.
Okay.
So there's a branching narrative that you're playing with this game.
Okay.
And it seems to be just a smidge away from just sitting down to play the RPG. So
Good.
yeah. So it's one of those things where I have to admit, a lot of my reaction to these is, well, why don't I just go play the RPG?
Yeah.
But then I have to give the developers credit for them replying to my comment on a Reddit thread and being like, "Hey, but there's official lore in here about what happens to Montreal in the setting." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm sorry. I guess I have to get it now. I don't know what's going on."
Excuse
Awesome.
me, you have to get it because the lore.
You just a big fan of Montreal? Or?
Well, just I'm a big fan of the vampire setting. Montreal was a cool Sabbath. They've done a lot of. We can get into the details after the show.
Okay.
But it's it's one of those things where you love the world and you want to see what happens in it, and it seems like what Paradox has been doing
Yeah.
is they've been letting their different licensees actually kind of expand the lore and show what has happened in these places in the 20 years or 25 years it's been since the game was kind of regularly updated, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
Montreal had a city book back in the day.
Oh.
And now, we want to know what's happened because a lot of the storyline has changed with 5th edition.
Okay.
So this is going to be one of the ways they're kind of letting people explore that story through a slightly different kind of game.
Okay.
And there's classes, or not classes, but there's characters for each of the different clans. I think there were a number of stretch goals to add some of the weirder clans in there.
Yeah.
They're very much trying to push it as RPG in a box, and they are emphasizing that you will go through combat encounters, or you can go through combat encounters, but there will also be social encounters and like political choices and things like that. You're trying to, gain influence in the city,
Okay.
and it's not just a fantasy adventure crawl. So, if you have kind of been intrigued by those games, if you're a vampire fan, you should at least check it out. There's only hours left, so you
Yes.
need to go check it out today. But if you have been looking for something that's kind of like a number of those narrative adventure story board gamey things, but you want something that's a modern kind of urban fantasy setting instead of a traditional D&D-esque setting,
Yeah.
then check this out.
Yeah.
But again, hours left.
Hours. And
Then we have Universal Rule, Singularity, and Solo AI. So this is 1 day left. This ends tomorrow.
yes.
And this is basically to try to take a whole 4X game, the expand, explore, expand, exploit, exterminate, I think are the 4Xs. So it's trying to take those big games, a lot of video games, but also a lot of board games, and boil this down to one of those wallet games. So it's all of that in 18 cards.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Yep.
Are there bits or?
You need money tokens and stuff like that. But the special game components are just 18 cards. So imagine love letter size, and you're trying to play a 4X game. So
That's awesome.
This is, I believe, the third expansion for that, or like the third spin-off, because I think all of these are standalone expansions. And that's what Singularity is.
Okay.
So a lot of it is like, you have a deck, you flip over the planet, you're trying to claim the planet and use its resources and stuff like that. And then the Solo AI one, that is an AI deck that you can put in so that the game can play against you, so you can play a solo game version of this. And I think that just adds more cards to your 18, basically.
Okay.
So,
That's awesome.
I like a lot of these super small kind of card.
Travel size.
Not only travel size, but like hyper small. Just because I really am intrigued by how people respond to the design constraints of only having 18 cards.
Okay.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see that.
And Button Shy has a history of publishing these. These are the folks who make the wallet games. The ones that come in a little clamshell, and you open it up, and there's just the cards that kind of fit in there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So they've made a bunch of these. They've been really good. So I'm always really curious when a new one pops up.
And I really like the idea of like a solo 4X game, because I really liked Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea, which is like a really big 4X game. And I know a lot of solo games, there's hard to find ones that give you a lot of gameplay. Some of them are just like puzzles, like roll and writes. So this one could be really interesting.
Yes. Ooh.
So 1 day left.
1 day left.
With 3 days left,
Brady.
we have Conan the Conqueror Adventure Mode Expansion. So this is an expansion for what is absolutely a KBG Kickstarter board game. There's a lot of minis. There's a bunch of content to go through. I suppose that Vampire Chapters was also a KBG, if I technically think about it.
Oh, okay.
Not a ton of minis, but enough to push it there.
How many minis is enough minis?
I don't know. Like, there's
never
definitely a
enough,
spectrum. Like more KBG, less KBG. Anyway. So the Conan one, like this is an expansion that's going to add more adventure mode content, and apparently this is also a Kickstarter that's going to be the last chance to get the original game in the limited edition format. So that's part of why I wanted to mention it to people. There's 3 days left on it. If you're a huge Conan fan, or if you've played the game and you want the limited edition version, or you just want more kind of expansion, you're going to want to check this one out.
Okay. And then
The next one has 4 days left.
4 days.
This is Decuma, the R&D for your RPG. So I was a little surprised that you weren't more excited by this, Javion.
I'm just not a big tarot person.
Well, so
but supplements are always fun.
This is a tarot deck that's specifically tailored for RPGs.
Go on.
And they split the tarot deck out into 3 categories. They take the major arcana, and those are used for the world situation. And the 2 of the suits are used for like character backstory, and 2 of the suits are used for character relationships at the table.
Yeah.
So the idea is that you're starting a new RPG. In your session 0, you bring this deck, and everybody is dealt cards that will inspire them to create stuff for the world, connect their characters to each other, come up with a backstory, and they tailor it to those particular elements so that if you're playing a game that has really good connections, like let's say we were playing the Dresden Files Fate game, where everyone starts off with connections. You don't need to use the cards that are character connections. You just take that deck and you set it aside.
Yes.
And you only use the other decks, maybe.
Okay.
So there's a lot of interesting little things in there. The art is very, very nice. So if you have wanted kind of a more tarot-y influence, or B, a way to make characters kind of go beyond their sheet a little bit, and you need some tools to kind of help your group get there, then you should check this out with 4 days left.
I am a huge sucker for supplementary accessories for RPGs. I have so much extra cards, dice, and accessories just for playing RPGs and like making things easier that actually is just like filled up my table. So I always
Great,
look,
I can
look
help
for
you
stuff
buy
like
some more.
these. Yeah.
Well, so like,
this.
this is an example of something where at first you didn't seem super interested because it says it's tarot based, but then explaining kind of what it does.
It actually functions as something to help people connect with each other. It doesn't have as much to do with like determining your fate and like fortune telling and stuff.
No, it's definitely not trying to tell a fortune or be an authentic tarot deck.
Gotcha.
Yes.
It's trying to take the tropes of tarot cards and the imagery of tarot cards and use that to help you as a group make kind of a more cohesive party and to make a more intricate world that you're connected to better.
That is interesting.
All right, Bonsai.
Yes.
What do you
guess
have
what?
for us?
I have Alter Carbon, the role-playing game. It has 4 days left. If you guys are not familiar, this was recently released as a popular Netflix series. Very.
I'm still watching it.
Still watching it. Very cyberpunk, very future, where your bodies don't matter, only your mind.
Yep. It's one of those. It's a classic cyberpunk like
Yes.
setting. Was it early 2000s? I think was when the book came out. Something like that.
Something like that.
So like the whole conceit was that just they could back up your brain or
Yes.
your personality. They could back up your personality and install it in any body that
Yes.
had the appropriate equipment installed. So body hopping
Body
is
hopping like
very
crazy.
common. It's like that's the core idea of the setting.
Yes, it's a whole transhumanist version of the future. Basically how it's just you want to go ahead and see how the ramifications of you hopping bodies are. I'm just honestly I'm very excited about this setting, and I'm very excited. I'm very into transhumanism. I like the future. I don't need my fleshy body. I can be whatever I want to be.
I am ready to get uploaded.
Yes.
I'll tell you right now.
Uploaded and all kinds of things.
I'm not ready for the firmware updates and software licenses that will come with that, but otherwise I'm totally ready.
I'm down for cyborg bodies. Just saying. Just saying.
So this looks like it could pretty easily address the death scenario of like most RPGs where you have to reintroduce your character again.
Yeah.
But in this one, it's like, just like boot your body back up.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll be in
Losing.
ridiculous debt.
Yeah.
And I think that similar to Eclipse Phase, which I think owes a lot to a lot of this. If you're not familiar with Eclipse Phase, it's like a sci-fi RPG. It's a little more science fiction-y than Alter Carbon because it's a little more interested in exploring the solar system.
Yeah.
But its core conceit too is we've digitized personalities.
Yep.
So now like you can
Just
get
re-sleeve.
you get yourself backed up. Get a new body. Don't like your body. Need to travel to another planet, but don't want to take the time to go there.
Go
you
there,
just
you just-
beam
Okay.
your personality there.
So it's not
Yeah.
just a security precaution or something like
No,
that.
no. I've actually played Eclipse Phase. I really liked it, but I think what I'm interested in seeing is how they're going to handle the re-sleeving process. Because in Eclipse Phase, you have a lot of bad things if you don't do it properly. And luckily, I had a home game with a very forgiving GM that made it kind of fun. And you just like, let's kind of ignore some of these rules because it's not going to be fun. Like, for example, in our game, we ended up trying to get information out from this terrorist organization, and we decided not to fight our way out. We went in deeper and uploaded our brains and shot us and committed suicide.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
great.
that's
Stuff
pretty
like that's
much,
wonderful.
Yeah.
So Alter Carbon is a little more focused.
Yes.
It's a little bit more down to earth, but there are more reasons to change bodies than to just for security.
Yes.
People want to do it because they want to stay young. It's a way to travel. You know, some like the book and the movie has someone who has a business trip in Osaka and he lives in San Francisco. He doesn't get on a plane. He just beams his mind over to a body in Osaka, does his business meeting, and then beams his mind back.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And there's
So
also,
like that's the promise of this neat setting.
And then with Alter Carmen, there's also a lot of like classism, because the rich can just hire whatever body and
Or produce clones in perpetuity.
produce clones and such. So it's like the more money you have, the more options that are open to you. Versus like, do you let your body go out randomly for money?
Well, there's also like what
Yeah.
it was is that so prisons, they don't have prisons anymore.
Yeah.
If you're convicted of a crime and sentenced, you are just sentenced to X years offline, and they just put you in storage, and then your body is just out there being used, and then when your term is done, you come back, and you hope they brought your body back. If not, they put you in whatever body they have.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It is cyberpunk, not
Cyberpunk.
Happy's Utopia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it is cyberpunk. Very cyberpunk.
I'm afraid to know what offline feels like.
Nothing.
Nothing.
You're just
The void.
you're not conscious.
The void.
Okay, well, I mean that is, I have more questions than answers now.
Well, so it is worth noting this Kickstarter is from Hunter's Books,
Yes.
who did Outbreak Undead. They also announced they're doing Werewolf the Apocalypse.
Okay.
Ivan Van Norman, who's the principal there, he did a bunch of Games of Dread on Geek and Sundry, I think.
Yep.
You know, this is in good hands, basically, is what I'm saying.
But yes,
That's
good
awesome.
hands. So 4 days left. Alter Carbon, the role-playing game. Next.
Next, we have 5 days left. We have Swords and Wizardry, a limited and collector's edition box set. So this is really just like for those OSR folks, if you like D&D, but you kind of want to experience like a little bit of the feel of D&D way back in the day, and you really want a box set, this is for you.
All in one.
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely the OSR box set thing. Like, if you want to get excited about a special edition that's kind of recaptures that magic, it's there for you. You know, they want to stay as close to the 1978 rules as possible, basically. Yeah, they have 1974 editions like that. Definitely, this is the old school box in kind of a modern limited edition. And because we know there's a lot of people who have a lot of passion about OSR, we figured they would want to know. So you got 5 days to go check that out.
5 days.
I'm really curious to see how much of the art they preserved or like updated and changed. Because if they are like just re-upping it and just like snapshotting as much as possible, then I would really love to see some of that old art just come back as well.
Well, remember it's not Wizards, so they can't use that old art.
Oh.
So a lot of it's in the same style and same earnestness, but it's not the exact same art. So like keep in mind this is not going to be exactly a replica of the old D&D stuff.
Sure.
It's going to be much more of a replication of the spirit of like what these designers felt like with that material.
Cool. Well, then it should have some of the same atmosphere then.
It will.
That's good.
Yes.
So also with 5 days left, we have Marvel United, and this is a new game from CMON that's all about the new, Marvel heroes with adorable little chibi
They're little
minis.
chibi feedings.
Yeah. Like
Big heads.
like almost pop.
Small
Funkos,
bodies,
but
big heads.
Kind of pop.
Well,
Funkos.
chibi was before Funko, just to remind.
See, like Funko was never chibi in my mind. Like the
Really?
head,
The big
I get it. But
Big head, small body.
But the big head
Is
there's
too big?
there's a squareness about the head that always made it feel like a very distinct thing in my mind.
Sure. Sure.
Like the head is so big and it's square enough that it almost felt a little more cubey than chibi.
Ah.
Okay.
But the bodies are still round and
Yeah, no, like there's definitely an association. I will not in any way
Yeah,
dispute
yeah.
that. But yeah, so this is another game from CMON. A game on CMON with some minis for Marvel on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Wildly popular. You got 5 days to check that out. And that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's Pop Funko Verse and like Marvel Champions and Crisis Protocol, and now we've got Marvel United. So now there's like a whole ton of like Marvel games that you can play. This one looks like it's probably going to be along the same lines as Funkoverse in terms of like opening it up to a wider audience. So like people who can just jump into it.
I think it will be just Marvel though. So unlike Funkoverse, it's going to kind of hop
exactly.
around to a bunch of different stuff. But
Definitely, yeah.
if you like that kind of cute, then it's going to be there. But Javion, you are excited about the next Kickstarter, also with 5 days left.
Yes, yeah. So, Gorinto is a sort of abstract engine building kind of game. I played this game recently called Senshi, and it's a game where you're taking these tokens and you're stacking them up, and it's got that same sort of like Asian atmosphere, like sort of style to it. And this one has pretty much the same similar theme, where you're trying to balance the 5 elements: earth, water, wind, and fire, and not love, the void. I'm assuming it's the same thing.
All of my
basically.
L5R peeps out there would recognize that those are the proper element distribution.
Yes, absolutely. And in this game, you are just collecting a bunch of these tiles off of the path, and you're moving them onto a mountain. And as you place them down on the mountain, you'll score points based off of like the different tiles that are around them, but also the different patterns that you understand, or like the depth of your understanding of that element. So, have you placed down a bunch of earth already? Well, you're going to get a bunch more points when you place down more earth, or more tiles next to earth, that kind of thing.
I also just found it interesting that you, the different elements, when you claim the tokens kind of off the board, they have different effects on the tokens around them based on the element that they are. Like I think earth, will take tokens that are lower in a stack.
Gotcha.
I think air moves tokens around. Water will kind of move tokens in a line.
Yeah.
There's some interesting elements.
Yeah. I like these
Elements.
sort of like simplified kind of, these sort of like simple, easy to learn kind of things. But engine building is just so much fun because I am an obsessive hoarder. I love collecting things.
Me too.
Yeah, awesome. And I loved Avatar and like L5R as well. So, like element-based engine building, right up my alley. It's super
If you
cool.
loved L5R, how come we never played it?
I liked the RPG. The card game was really tough to get into.
What do you think I'm running every week? Every 2 weeks, I run an L5R game.
I didn't know you were running anything
We
every
should
2
play
weeks,
sometime.
Derek.
Have
awesome.
Have you played the board game?
I have
The Battle for Rokugan game?
No, I haven't played
real
it.
good.
I've seen it.
It's real good.
It looks good.
Ooh.
It's very similar.
In no way is it similar, except for the elements.
What I meant is in style. Sorry.
sure.
I didn't mean to be unclear about that. But yeah, so Gorinto, it's got 5 days left. Pretty fun, really, really aesthetic, abstract game. So you've got like planning ahead, chess style, strategic tile laying. Definitely check it out.
I hope they're gonna have a good tile feel.
Yeah, I
ruins
hope
the
so
game,
too.
yeah.
If they're really smooth, that's one thing. But if they're like stones, like skipping stones or something, that could be really cool too.
Well, it looked like they were a little stackable.
Yeah.
So I think they're
plastic.
probably like plastic or resin of some kind that will stick together.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna check it out.
So the next project with 6 days left is Hunter the Vigil.
Yes.
So this is another one of the Chronicles of Darkness games, which was like the reboot of the World of Darkness way back in the day.
Yeah.
So this is what Onyx Path is kind of shepherding now. And so the Kickstarter has 6 days left. Hunter the Vigil was a very popular, one of the later games in the series, especially in the original World of Darkness. But it had a pretty passionate following.
Yeah.
And so folks who really like the idea of playing mortals or who might have superpowers,
Yeah.
who are pushing back against the darkness in the World of Darkness, will find something in here.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, this is sort of like a rebellion kind of feel to it.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, like an uprising or something.
I like being the peasants that rise and level up.
I don't.
It's cool.
It's part of the hero's journey. You
It's
start
hero
at the
journey.
bottom.
You can't just start.
It's the World of
Rise to
Darkness,
greatness.
which is not the hero's journey, it is the villain's journey.
But
Part of the World of
You have
Darkness
to start
is you will
somewhere.
eventually lose. What do you do along the way? That's the key. Anyway,
That could be really fun and interesting.
yes.
I played Dread.
so the next Kickstarter, 6 days left. This is Testament. So this is from Japanime Games.
Yes.
This is a very like Final Fantasy inspired anime art cooperative game where you're battling different monsters. So
Yeah.
if you want to have the anime art style mages and fighters murdering on huge monsters, then Japanime has you covered.
Japan.
Sweet. Is it going to be like a MMORPGs? Okay, cool. So it's going to have like that turn-based combat where you like take an action and then somebody else is like, oh, I'm going to take this action.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know the full details. We haven't gone through the full gameplay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But they're probably pulling elements from a bunch of different ones.
I hope so.
And they're certainly pulling the visual styling.
Yes.
of
Very,
Japanese
very
RPGs.
anime. Very anime.
And why
looking.
wouldn't they?
Yeah.
All right, JVN, what is the last normal Kickstarter project you have for us?
Global Crisis.
Global.
It's the game of Future Earth. It is a co-op game with a trader mechanic. You are you are trying to use these powerful world leaders to solve the crisis, whatever it may be, that is trying to threaten world peace or like collapse civilization.
Yeah.
And we've got references or at least influences from lots of different co-op games like Hanabi and like 5 Minute Dungeon, but also like trader mechanic games like Coup and Resistance, but not really like always just a trader mechanic. Sometimes it's more like hidden roles or just like hidden agendas and things like that, right? So you're constantly trying to figure out what the 5 cards in other people's hands are going to be, or what they are, while also trying not to give too much information away to the one person who's listening, who is going to use that information, to make things worse for you. But you're also trying to then play the cards and then score them in sets as well. So it's a lot of theming around government leaders taking control over how the world is going to survive all the different calamities that are going to befall them. So I really liked the art style. It was pretty cool, and I love the concept because I like co-op games.
Do you want to admit why you really got excited?
For the most part, I really just like the font.
The font.
I don't know why. It as soon as I saw it, I was just like, this is something that speaks to me as not a super complicated game. Sure. They styled the text. I think they formatted it in a way that just like popped out to me for some weird reason.
I just find it very amusing that like we're skimming through Kickstarters, figure out who wants to cover what, and it was like JVN, and you're like, oh, I love this font. I was like, oh, cool. I guess you are. All right, okay, whatever pulls you in.
I would say the font is kind of important because there's been many a game.
Absolutely.
Remember when there was that weird font? Like Zine that was just like hurts my eyes, and I was like, I don't want to. This cool concept.
I in no way deny the importance of a font. I was just very amused that is what pulled JVN in.
Sometimes it's the little things.
It's the little
count.
details.
Yeah, so 6 days left for that one.
Yes.
So
speaking of little things,
check it out.
Let's talk about Zine Quest. So if anybody has not been watching our past couple episodes and hasn't heard our kind of spiel on Zine Quest, Kickstarter in February does a Zine Quest kind of project. If your project is RPG related, if it's published like a zine, which means it has to kind of be fairly small, it has to be like half of a page, like you kind of fold it together kind of thing. It can't be perfect bound, has to be like stapled or stitched or something like that. And it only runs for 2 weeks, and it only uses 2 colors in the printing, so you can't have full color art. If it looks like the kind of thing that you could make at your school after hours, then it can be part of Zine Quest.
Cool.
And then they just kind of group them together. So we have the link for Zine Quest. We can probably post it in the chat. And they basically just, you end up with these really interesting collections of very weird, idiosyncratic, small, focused RPG products. So like none of them are going to be the huge blockbuster and like dethrone D&D, but they're all going to find some group of people who love that idea and would love to grab it and play it in a couple games. So we have picked a pretty small selection of what's active right now, just stuff that spoke to us for one reason or another. But there's plenty more that we just didn't have time to fit or grab images for. So if you are curious, go check out Zine Quest and see what's out there right now.
I have an idea for a good Zine Quest.
Oh?
What about a quest or like an entire RPG based around finding the world's last Zune and call it Zune Quest? Because as we all know, Zunes are a thing of the past in history, and for good reason. But like
you didn't want to squirt your music.
I don't know.
So you're mocking the Zune, and you don't even remember that the Zune's key ability was that you could share a song with somebody, and they called it squirting. Yeah, so you would squirt a song at somebody else.
Oh,
I'm
God.
glad I didn't know about
Oh,
that,
that's
Derek.
really what the name was?
Yes, also you will need to make the cover brown, because the brown Zune is the classic Zune.
Why would they think that was like cool? Just like, oh, we're gonna squirt my music into your
Great.
Zune. Just like,
So,
what?
Javion, I demand that by next February,
Oh, no.
you are ready to launch
Sure.
Zune Quest.
I will have
it
26
out there.
pages ready to go.
Sounds great.
Here you go.
All right.
All right,
You
cool.
heard it here.
You
If
heard
he
it here.
doesn't do that, he
Awesome.
owes us a Coke.
Let's talk about this first zine we've got going.
Great.
All right, so this one is called Sagas of Rimholm. It is based on the mid-arc adventure setting for Torchbearer, and it what Sagas of Rimholm is a art book for Mittermarks. Excuse me, I said mid-arc. Mittermark. So you can get a little bit more detail about that setting.
More inspiration.
Yeah, more inspiration, yeah. But you also get a campaign supplement, so you can get way deeper into, the actual setting. You can actually build it out and turn it into like a campaign that you can run, which I think is pretty cool. Torchbearer is like this sort of like more exploratory and survival-based RPG. So getting to dive even deeper into Mittermark would
It's
be
a very
really cool.
popular kind of indie dungeon delvey kind of game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty efficient.
So that has hours left. So if you
Hours.
like Torchbearer, or particularly if you back the Kickstarter campaign for the Mittermark setting, then you should go check this out.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So the next one, this is a Kickstarter that I literally want just to deal with the kids that I run D&D for on Wednesdays, because they will constantly come up with dumb ways to use their bag of holding to get around problems.
Yeah.
So this is mishaps of extraplanar interiors of infinite storage boxes. So this is basically like the more stuff you shove in that bag, the longer you leave it in there, the weirder something's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I really want to just have this on hand for the next time they abuse it by like having a party full of warforges who just jump in the bag and then they just throw the bag over the wall and then they just pop out like.
Yeah.
So like this is an example of a very narrow situation, but let's explore.
I've seen that go really wrong, where
Yeah.
where you get inside the bag, but then the bag blows up.
Well, so like it happened once. Like they were in a dungeon. There were a bunch of bad guys nearby. It was Prince of the Apocalypse, I think.
Yeah.
And they grabbed a bunch of prisoners, put all the prisoners in the bag of holding, and told them to hold their breath, and then tried to teleport out to rescue them all. So I had them make some rolls and stuff like that. Didn't go very well. So when they opened up the bag, none of them were there. And through the rest of the campaign, I kept having those prisoners who were lost in extra-dimensional situations kind of reappear and haunt them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Were they dead? They just flop out a dead body?
No, there was nothing. So they didn't know, basically, imagine, the Star Trek transporter malfunction kind of thing.
Oh,
They were
yeah.
haunted by that, basically.
Oh, okay. So there's like clones.
Yep. So I made them a little more cautious about abusing that. So that has days left.
Days left.
Uh-huh.
And then
Yep.
the next zine that we're going to be covering is got 2 days left. You know how I talked about Hero Kids?
Yeah, you did.
Now we're going to do Space Kids RPG.
Okay.
Sweet.
So it's in space. This one has a higher curve, and this one actually uses the whole set of polyhedra dice. The ages for this one, this is basically, it's a simple, fun, inclusive RPG game about kids in space. Science fiction based.
Are you
Instead
allowed
of-
to ever say it without being like, kids in space? Okay.
Yeah, because it's space. You gotta say it. So this age group is for 4 to 12. The cool thing about this is that they're divided into different rule set. So the younger the kids, you get the basic rule set that's from ages 4 to 7, and then the expanded rules when your kids are like, all right, I know the rules. Then you're like, have more rules. Complication.
I wonder if you can combine the two. If you have a younger kid and an older kid, if they can both be at the same table and use the different rules. Because I wonder how they built them.
I
I'd be
feel like
curious.
they would, because it's still the basic rules. You
Maybe.
just get extra things that you know versus you doing the math. They will do the math.
I just asked because I know that that's a common problem that a number of parents that I know, parents of multiple kids,
Yes.
a lot of times they have a lot of trouble finding a game that will work for both age groups.
Yeah.
Because it's oftentimes, we know how kids are and we know how family is. When the older kid gets to sit down and play, the younger kid wants to as well.
Yes. But I do think it's pretty cool that they do have the whole set, so D4 to D20, for this game. Because, kids will also, think, oh, I don't want to, they'll associate the D6 as I don't want to use the kitty die. I'm old enough. I can use the D20
Are you
The pointy D4.
Is there some salt there?
No, there's no salt.
Is that a thing that happened to you?
No, I'm a product of a cheerleader and a football player.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
They met at McDonald's.
That's fun. I need to know the story later.
Wow.
So I came out nerd. They were like, I don't know what happened.
This is a great time to be a kid.
It is. But yeah, that has 2 days left. Go ahead and check it out. It's just got two booklets, one for player's guide and adventurer's guide. So just check it out.
Awesome.
So with 1 day left is Ancestry and Culture, an alternative to race in 5th edition. And this is a zine that's trying to tackle a little bit of the uncomfortable baggage that comes with race and a lot of those tropes in fantasy.
Yeah.
So it's going to do two things. First, it wants to step away from a lot of that. And then second, it wants to provide some rules to do those kinds of characters that you thought of, where you have one ancestry but you grew up in a different culture.
Yeah.
So like the gnome raised by the elves or something like that. Or the dwarf raised by halflings or whatever.
Yeah.
So they're trying to decouple some of those to emphasize maybe upbringing more than just your genetic kind of stock per se. So if you have kind of wanted to do different things with race, or if you've wanted to get a little bit beyond just race, or so like the associations of that make you feel uncomfortable, this one might give you some tools to tweak that in your home games.
Okay.
So I can make like a kobold raised by dragons.
Quite possible.
Oh
Yes.
man, that's awesome. Okay, cool. I'm already on board.
Because it's just culture, not necessarily genetics. And I like that idea. And then maybe we'll have more half creatures. Being a mixed person myself, I like seeing all these half races everywhere.
They're the best because you usually get like the best of both worlds too. It's awesome.
Yes, all of it.
So Javion.
That's me.
Yes.
We're going to talk about the deck of many things and the deck of many fates. These are RPG cards built not by Humblewood, because Humblewood made the deck of many, which is like the animated spell book and stuff like that. But these ones are actually sort of like a self-contained thing. They're RPG cards that are going to give you a completely new set of the deck of many things. So you still get the 22 cards that are like all of the ones that we recognize from 5e, but you also get the deck of many fates, which are new creations. They're kind of like the deck of many things.
Same idea, just new.
Same idea.
Yep.
Yeah, but you get like more encounters. You come across things. There are like curses and like animal companions that you can collect and stuff like that. So you can play, with just the deck of many things and maybe just like 13 of those cards and toss those into the players. Or you can play with the deck of many fates, or you can just smash them both together and get about 49 cards that you just like shuffle up together. So you have even more variance in what can and can't happen to the players, which I think is super awesome because I recently bought my own deck of many things. It was just 22 cards with like little information things on the backs of them, which is what these are as well. But this time you get like really, really nice art. I actually love the art for these cards. And some new stuff to toss into is always a really, really cool idea.
Cool.
Just more accessories for my table.
Great.
All the tables. Now, hey, you guys, do you like food and ever wanted to play food in a food setting?
Play food?
Or you don't actually play food, but
Okay.
it's a food setting. It's a food setting. You like food, and you like role-playing games, so I got things for you.
Do you want food trucks in your D&D?
Yeah, you want food trucks in your D&D? You want to be hipster fantasy?
Ooh.
This is the one you want.
I'm
This
very much a
is
hipster.
Gourmet Street Fantasy Street Food Adventuring zine. It has 3 days left. This is basically a setting that you can play, and it has characters that you can have. It's just like, it's supposed to be, don't put it in a dark setting. This is just supposed to be humorous. Humorous and fun. Like if you're ever a fan of Discworld, Cut Me Throat Dibla is kind of very based off of this. They even mention it in here.
The note of God of Cookery makes me smile.
Yes, the God of Cookery. So it's also based off of various anime. You can see a lot of people that you would know from fictional into this setting, and it's basically just really fun. You can drop it, like you can even have just an encounter. It's supposed to be just like a one-off kind of thing. It's an encounter. You can go ahead and have food factions in there. So the Vinegar Knights or the Salt Kings, you can have those in there, and also an adventure of just escape gourmet street. So you could just have like a really fun setting in there where you're like, oh no, should we eat the mystery food from this thing, players? Let's find out and roll on the table. It also
You'd
allows.
be surprised, like players always love that. Like,
Yeah.
Anytime that they go into some sort of messy tavern and there's slop on the menu,
Yeah.
like they're like, yeah, we order it. And I'm like, all right, fine, make a Constitution saving throw.
Yeah, and then you could also, it includes a random menu generator. So if you just have a tavern and you were like, oh, okay, what's on the list? What are the specials? You can just roll and ba-da.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so that.
I struggle a lot with that with like taverns and stuff. When people come in, I'm just like, hold on, let me Google tavern food real fast.
Tavern food, but
My
yes,
answer is just, I don't care.
I know,
The
but
camera doesn't pan down there, so we don't know.
That's one way to do it.
I guess if you want to be lame, but 3 days
Wow,
left.
wow.
I need to be immersed.
Wow.
I need to be immersed, Eric. Yeah.
Anyway, 3 days left.
3 days left.
So the next one I want to talk about with 2 days left is Madame Maze's Cabaret of Carrion Delights. Are you ready for this?
Ooh.
I'm going to give you a quick pitch. You ready?
All right.
Okay.
Dimension hopping, traveling circus
Yes.
filled with horrific monsters,
Ooh.
set and hosted in the rotting corpse of an enormous wolf god. You in? Because I'm in.
But it's gonna smell really bad.
They'll sell you popcorn for that.
Okay. I like popcorn.
Sounds real weird.
It sounds
Yep.
really
Which
weird,
is-
but
I'm in.
Pretty cool.
So, like, this is what I mean by weird things in zines.
I mean,
yeah.
why
Alright,
wouldn't you
yeah.
clean it out though? Like the thing would be like you could
God,
just
wolf, wolf god.
but you can still clean it out.
Okay, well, you can do that, and then you'll have to fight the circus.
Okay.
All right, I mean, like, that's it. That's the high concept.
The
I'm
high
in for it.
circus and a dead wolf god.
Yeah, I have a feeling you're either in for that or you're not.
I'm down.
The picture of the lady kissing the skull might help you, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll see. All right, Javion.
Well, it's worth a shot, I suppose. All right, next up we have Dungeon Delve. There's 3 days left for this one. It is a role-playing game zine for Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. So, Savage Worlds is traditionally more of a exploration type RPG. You know, you're doing a lot of exploration and exploring and survival. What Dungeon Delve does is it gives you a big old dungeon where you can like dive into it and find lots of encounters and traps and other whatnot.
It's more fantasy based, right?
Yeah, it's much more fantasy based. What's really cool about this is that the adventure generator that you'll find inside of it was made by Alan Barr, who made Tiny Dungeon, and I love Tiny Dungeon. It's just like basically D&D, but with 3 6-sided dice, and you pick out like a couple of traits and you just run with it. So Alan Barr is really good at like making these like generators, these tables.
Getting a lot out of a little.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Less is more. And then the short story in it is made by John Wick, who made Seventh Sea, which is another familiar RPG.
Yeah.
So
And Legend of the Five Rings.
and Legend of the Five Rings. So a lot of like really cool figures helped make this really small little 32-page booklet with some really, really cool stuff for Savage Worlds.
Great. And that's got 3 days left.
3 days.
So the next one, also with 3 days left, is Rebel Crown. So we have all, or many of us have talked about how we like Blades in the Dark.
Yes.
So this is a Forge in the Dark setting. But you ready for this?
What?
We're not playing criminals.
Oh, what?
One of us is going to be an heir to the throne or a claimant to the throne, and the rest of us are going to play the people who have sworn to help get that person on the throne.
Yes,
Oh,
that sounds
yeah,
awesome.
Nice.
I love that.
So this is all just in a little zine. One person is going to be rising up, and you just got to help them and get them through that process. So it takes a lot of the crew and kind of territory and a lot of the element of Blades in the Dark and gives a completely different spin on it.
Nice.
So I can be like the support character, like propping up the regime.
Yep.
Ah.
Well, I mean, theoretically, the reason you're not already in power is because somebody in power is trying to deny your claim.
Yes.
So you need to figure out how you're going to get around whatever obstacles.
Assassinate everybody.
That is absolutely a way to go.
Sweet.
So I'm excited about that one.
Me too.
Yes.
Next, Bonsai.
Next is Under the Floorboards. It has 4 days left. If you ever wanted to play The Borrowers in a RPG setting, this is the game for you. Pretty much, it's just like you are little tiny people, and the world is the world, and things that happen, like, you know, oh, hey, like imagine like our world, like somebody just moving a mountain, and then you just have to deal with that. That's essentially what it is, except your mountain is a chair, and somebody's like, I don't like this chair here, and they put it somewhere else. Like that's pretty much what you're dealing with here. And like things like spiders and cockroaches and rats are really, really, really scary.
See, now I'm suddenly inspired to take that idea and
What?
not shrink people down, but like take the idea of like
The
creatures
gods?
way bigger than us remodeling, and just imagine what it would be like if you were like a 3 inches tall,
Yeah.
and someone moved out of the apartment that you lived in, and then somebody else moved in. I want like a group of gods to do that with a world.
With the world.
Like the gods move out, and everyone's like, "Well, there's nothing," and then new gods come in, and they're like, "That's weird."
That's weird, but yeah,
Anyway,
that's
completely
essentially
unrelated.
what it is. Because these, like us as people, are not aware of the tiny creatures, and so we're just like, yeah, you know what, YOLO kind of thing. But this is the point of view of being the small, insignificant borrower.
Sure.
That's really cool. I have a personal little anecdote. I'm currently having my players shrink down and kill some rats, so maybe I'll have them like do this little one shot.
Sure.
Yeah.
This would be the kind of perfect thing that a zine would be great for.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So the next, that has 4 days left.
Yes, 4 days.
The next zine we have is 3 days left, and this is actually 2 different games. This is Venture and Dungeon. Okay. So Venture is a heroic fantasy game.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're playing effectively D&D, but it's trying to make it much more introspective.
Yes.
So your character traits are much more about why do you do things, like what is your identity and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Because you're trying to, you do your hero's journey, but you're trying to figure out how you're changing, like what are the psychological elements of your character, basically. But then Dungeon is the other one, and that is the kind of weird meta game that I'm not usually into, but I'm a little intrigued here.
Yes.
Because you're playing kids sitting down to play D&D, and you make both the kids and their D&D characters, and it's all about them playing D&D and kind of working through their issues in life.
Wow.
And what character they play reflects that and ties into that. So
There's layers.
there's an interesting interplay there that could be a lot of fun to mess around with on a one-shot or something like that.
So meta.
It's
I know,
very
right?
meta.
So that has 3 days left.
3 days left.
And if you kind of want a little more emotion in some of your stuff, maybe a little meta, then check those out.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. But guess what? I have a very in-depth game to tell you guys. Very in-depth game. It has
Go
6
on.
days left. It's called The Great Bork Team.
So this is one of those projects that, because Emma's not here this week, like I thought the two of you were going to fight over
Yeah,
who
I
gets to
was
cover
going to
this.
fight Emma if this was during this time. But I won because Emma's not here. Haha.
Dang.
But yes, so basically this is a zine where, or zine that you role play as 3 sled dogs on this sled team. The GM is the musher. And the cool mechanic about this, you're trying to your sled team trying to get home. And the cool mechanic about this, the core mechanic, is that you have to bark in unison to alert the GM of what's encountering and what's going on. And you can't human talk. You have to go, bark, bark, bark! Bark, 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 bark! Bark.
That's great.
So I literally saw this and was like, I don't need
What?
to read further because I'm not going to be able to cover this. Emma and Bonsai will cover it.
Yes, so
So I had no idea you could only bork.
You can
Oh my
only
God.
bark.
So you have to
can
say
only,
like bark or borf.
or no,
or
bark. You have to bark of some sort.
Oh my gosh.
But you can't say words, so you have to come up with new like words in your so you could
like
be
rough and like arf.
rough. Rough
yeah,
is
yeah,
like
so,
there's rough terrain.
yeah,
rough,
yeah.
rough, rough, rough,
Yep.
rough. And so you have to come up with the.
That's awesome.
It's great. So
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
really?
discover new dangers along the way, and you're a musher, GM. You're gonna mush, and we're gonna bark. Bark, 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 bark.
This is so cool. Oh man.
So,
Okay, I'm definitely gonna
It's
buy
the
that
best
one.
game.
The other very cute Kickstarter this week with 4 days left
Yes.
is Draculola, And this is coming from Chris Sims, who has a lot of design credits, including D&D and Starfinder and stuff like that. But this is like the kid monster friendship game that he made with his daughters. So both of his daughters were kind of the primary impetus for a lot. They created a whole lot of the stuff. I think they made a lot of the characters. But, you know, you're basically like Dracula's daughter trying to make friends and stuff like that. So, you know, maybe a little Hotel Transylvania-y.
Yeah.
But it's a really adorable project that he's making with his daughters. So if in any way the idea of playing monster kids on adventures appeals to you, check it out.
Yes.
This is a great time to be a nerdy kid.
It is. It's a good time.
What a world we live in, where like there's so much
What a
material
world.
to be like a kid playing a role-playing game. There's nothing like this before.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I can definitely say, you've convinced me. I definitely like zines now. I'm definitely super into zines.
Yeah,
See?
yeah. There's a little bit of everything for everybody here.
So we probably have maybe another episode or two where we'll be covering Zine Quest.
Yes.
Because they had to launch in February, so you'll probably have a couple more filtering out.
Yeah.
But the bulk of them are gone now. So check them out. You know, they might be released somewhere else in a different format, or look towards next year when maybe you're going to have your own zine.
Yeah.
Zune Quest.
Zune Quest. But yes, friends, that is it for today for TableTakes. But stick around because we still got new release rundown with Amanda Irving and from Blue Highway Games. We also have a Friday, like later on tonight, we have our game night show every Friday at 6 p.m. Today we're going to be doing Alien RPG. Derek is our GM, and we are going to be hugging aliens because aliens are nice friend people, right?
There's going to be a whole lot of betrayal and deception.
All
and
deception,
intrigue,
all the intrigue.
and death. Lots and lots of death.
Yeah, well, who started that?
Who started death, I wonder?
Me. I did.
Yeah.
I'm the first one.
He started it and then went, see ya. No,
Actually, if you think about it, Mother was the one.
Oh, yeah,
that
Mother
was
started it.
controlling everything. So I don't know.
Mother started it.
All she
just
did was
saying.
blow up a ship.
All she did was blow up a ship. No big
It
deal.
wasn't just a ship. There's a man on there. But yes, Gen Con TV here, we have a lot more shows than just this. We have Mondays, 6 p.m., board games with the Brothers Murph. Wednesdays, it starts at 9 a.m. with Minis with the Murphs, where they paint minis. And of course, really excited, Fireside at 4 p.m., where you get the background information. You've been on Fireside,
I
yes.
have, yeah.
And you get the background information of like all the things that happen in D&D during the day, Magic the Gathering.
Yeah,
and-
last season was Magic. This season is D&D 3rd edition.
Yes.
We were talking to like an artist this week, and we were just like got into all the stories of like what the art style was all about, like references to things. And it was really cool.
Yes. And then 6:30 p.m. we have the Westgate Irregulars, where a group of writers come in and play D&D. Fridays, of course, you have TableTakes with us starting at 11, and then 12:30 the new release rundown, and at 6 p.m. our game nights. Remember, badges are on sale for Gen Con.
I got mine.
We're here. Yeah. And then also, don't forget to, you know what? There's that little like follows are free. You can also subscribe. Hit that follow or subscribe button, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any episode. But if you do, don't worry. Our episodes are on 24 hours after on YouTube on 24 hours after the live stream. We also have podcasts, especially if you want to hear Javon's sultry voice or Peter's sultry voice. So you guys can listen to that while you're in the car driving. You can just listen to us all the time. And
So the new release, or the episode that came out this
Yes.
week, will be released that following Friday.
This Friday.
So Javion's episode earlier this week is out now, actually. 'Cause
Yes,
it came
it's
at
out
10.
now.
Yeah.
Yep, so it's out.
Day over.
I realized today's Friday.
Today is Friday.
Today's
Weird,
Friday.
huh? It's funny that way.
It's Friday. We're on
And
TableTakes.
then on Mondays we release an archived episode. Basically, we opened the vault and released the archives, covering the Magic episodes.
Oh, I also was gonna ask you, how are the hotel registrations going so far? Are they like super sold out, or is there still room for people? Or
Thanks for
Gen
asking,
Con.
Javion.
Do we know? Do we not know?
We
or-
do. The hotel block is open.
Okay.
There are still plenty of rooms to get.
Yes.
They
Cool.
are somewhat more distant, so you will need
Great.
to plan ahead.
Plan
All
ahead.
right, well, plan ahead
However,
then.
people are canceling at any time
So,
throughout the year. So
keep
if
a
you keep
look.
an eye on it, you might be
great.
able to pop in and grab a room that you want.
Great.
But yes.
Cool, because I definitely haven't done that yet.
Yes. But
Let us know how it goes.
But yes, Javion, thank you so much for
Thank you
joining
for
us
having
today.
me.
This is his first time on TableTakes, or
So
on
much
this
fun.
version. He's been on the show. He just hasn't been on this part.
I haven't been on TableTakes before.
You haven't been on
but
TableTakes, so
but this was super fun. Thank you guys so much for having me.
great.
I had a
Yes.
blast.
And
Sorry, Emma and Christian couldn't be here.
I know, but it's okay. It's okay. They'll be back. They'll be back
Soon.
soon. But thank you also, you guys, for watching, for supporting us, and being here and being awesome and chatting. We like that. We like that a lot. And also, thank you to Cal Data Studios for letting us borrow this awesome set that everybody on Twitter is always like, oh my God, that set.
I think they were trying to speculate what the books were behind
Yeah,
us.
everybody was trying to speculate all the books. And also, this has been me, Bonsai, Javion, Derek, and I hope you guys have a wonderful time and stick around for New Release Rundown. See ya!